And you see in the after-hour session, those partners across the board that are getting expanded partnerships with Apple higher firmly. I think, did you mention Corning like a week ago?
No, we did. Corning Glassworks. It's
That's
up in
right.
upstate New York, where I hail from. Listen, as the guy who generally likes to be optimistic on this desk. Okay. You know, the commitment to this plant in Kentucky is literally $2.5 billion. Guy could probably do the math on $600 billion. So it's literally a rounding error on that. 5% of the components that go into iPhones are made in the United States, right? And so John Kovac just mentioned, Steve Kovac. Just mentioned that they really want to kind of, reorient their supply chain to the United States. It just can't happen, right? When you think about it, I mean, Tim Cook has spent the last 25 years and really the 15 years prior when he worked for Steve Jobs creating that ecosystem in and around China because of that manufacturing, but also because the efficiency of basically bringing all these components in. A lot of them are made, obviously, in China and manufacturing them, shipping it here. If you make all the glass in Kentucky and then you're shipping it to China to put on the iPhones or shipping it to India, it just doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. And the other thing I'll just say about the $600 billion. So if you think of all the hyperscalers, in the last few years, they probably spent $700 billion in CapEx that they hope to get a return on, right, by renting out that compute and putting the models on there and having the rest of the world, right, kind of use their clouds to access these models. Well, Apple, you know how much they said on their call last week that they're going to spend on CapEx? $4 billion. This is a company that AI, Apple Intelligence, dead bang loser, right? And who knows when they're ever going to join the party. And granted, they didn't need to. They don't have a cloud business and they don't need to build the models, but they're just lights out when it comes to AI. And so to me, I just think that they have actually misappropriated some of the things that they should have been most focused on right now. And I just don't think these sorts of commitments that will take 10 years to actually spend that amount of money are really going to happen. Maybe it gets them the, exemption, that sort of thing, and maybe that's the point. But to me, I just think this is kind of a non-event. Maybe that is the point. Maybe that is the point, that it's going to take 10 years. He's going to outlast the Trump administration, and by then, you pull back the reins. But in the meantime, you can navigate this environment. You can curry some favor with the administration, get the carve-outs that you need.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is. Good for him. You get that monkey off your back, and the stock acts in kind. I think if there's any good news here is that the phones are probably not going to be assembled in the United States, which theoretically means they're not going to be more expensive, potentially hurt margins and those types of things. But just in terms of the stock, probably traded 2 times normal volume today. Okay, but anemic bounce since that April low as opposed to the broader market or some of its rivals. I think the all-time high in the stock was 260-ish much earlier this year or late last year. Yes, we've bounced, but not nearly to the extent. So I think this is just a one-day reprieve, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think this really is just to appease the current administration, right? Because I think their biggest risk to the downside is their tariffs. They're one of the largest companies here in the United States who is exposed to Chinese and Indian tariffs, which if they're going to be exempt from that, it really lowers that risk for them. On the opposite side, I think one of the biggest risks to the upside is their AI strategy, and that just still isn't there. I think until they have that, yes, maybe they're going to not be as bad on the downside, but I just don't know what that catalyst is that's going to bring them higher until they have the AI strategy, and that's just still not here.
So this was a company that was rewarded for not doing CapEx originally, and then it became a headwind to them.
Right.
I think this is a home run idea for them. I think they have to eventually bring manufacturing here. The phones might be more expensive, or there could be efficiencies. $12 billion they received from the new big, beautiful bill in free cash flow. So I think whatever they're spending, that's going forward as well, right? So they don't do a ton of CapEx, but they do a ton of R&D. $30 billion a year. Minimum $30 billion a year. So they are investing. They're just not investing the way the other companies are investing. They need an AI strategy, or they could buy one. But right now, they're doing what they have to do, and I think they're doing a great job at it.